My third NBA trade deadline video. More views, but I also think this is a topic worth talking about for like 10 minutes. Dwayne Wade going back to the Miami Heat for a second round pick. And what does this do for Miami? Does it make them better? Does it not make them better? Is Dwayne Wade a good fit on this current Heat team? Well, the first thing that I think needs to be talked about is if he's going to start or come off the bench. Now, he came off the bench in his first game, and I think that would be the easy choice to just have him come off the bench. But at the same time, this is Dwayne Wade, and there is, of course, sentimental value with him in Miami, and there's always a thing in the NBA with veterans starting over younger guys, even if the younger guy might be like a better fit. The one thing that I think of was Ray Allen and Avery Bradley in Ray Allen's last year with the Celtics, where the Celtics were a better team when Avery Bradley played over Ray Allen, but it still did cause, there was like a little bit of a riff going on. I mean, Ray Allen, of course, left the Celtics, so who knows what the hell is going to happen with this situation in D. Wade. Now, does the fit work? Maybe not immediately, but I think it could get there. The Heat shoot a lot of threes, okay? They're 7th in the league in threes attempted. They're 8th in threes made per game. If we look at that in comparison to when Dwayne Wade was there, latest version of that being 2016, they were 28th in three-point attempts per game. And I think a lot of that was because of just how often Dwayne Wade did stuff in that offense. I mean, D. Wade was the team leader in shots per game. He was also the leader in usage rate by a pretty wide margin. His usage rate was 31.5% in 2016. The next guy was Chris Bosh, who played 50 games. And then the next guy after that was Goran Dragic at 22. That's a wide disparity, okay? Whereas the current Miami Heat are more of a team where one guy doesn't really dominate the ball. It's a combination of a whole bunch of ball handlers and a whole bunch of guys doing stuff, okay? So, Dragic has the highest usage rate at 26.5. And then the next guy would be Whiteside, and Olynyk is not too far away, and James Johnson's at 19%, so it's a little closer with everybody, right? And there's a lot of playmakers. I mean, James Johnson is constantly setting screens, and his signature thing is he'll bring the ball up floor, he'll do a handoff to someone in the corner, he'll set a screen for him immediately, and maybe he'll roll to the basket. You got Dragic in pick and rolls, you got Tyler Johnson in pick and rolls or just isolations occasionally. So if you're asking Dwayne Wade to play off of that stuff, he's going to have to get his cutting game on, which he's always been a good cutter. He's always had the savviness to recognize when to cut, and I think he is still able to attack a closeout, and given that this team puts out a decent amount of three-pointers on the floor at all the time, I think there will be enough spacing around Dwayne Wade. I mean, a normal lineup could be like Dragic at point, Wade at 2, or maybe even Josh Richardson at 2, and Wade at 3. Well, Richardson's 6'6", maybe he'd be the small forward in that situation. But then like Olynyk at power forward, and then I think you could roll with Whiteside at center. I think that's enough spacing to do you well, because Whiteside typically lingers around the basket anyway. You could swap out Whiteside for Bam Adebayo in that situation. But then there's also, Tyler Johnson is a solid enough three-point shooter. Wayne Ellington, of course, is one of the best three-point shooters in the league. I think there's enough contrast between Wade not being much of an outside guy and guys on this team who can really knock down shots to where you should be cool. Now, there is a slight chance that there could be times when it's a little rough. Like, if you have Wade out there with James Johnson, that could potentially be a problem, but it also might not be because both of those guys are ball handlers. So you could have Wade bring the ball up. Hell, you could have Wade and James Johnson pick and rolls. I think that could actually be something. And, if the defense decides to switch that, then you could have D. Wade. Well, it would depend on the power forward. I mean, I think there are some power forwards in the NBA who can definitely defend the 36-year-old version of D. Wade, but I'm sure there's some guys he could get by as well. They could just go under that screen and force him to do something, whether it's pull up from mid-range or whatever they might do. He's pretty crafty. I mean, even if you give him some daylight, he might still find a way to get by you, whether it's like a Euro step, a spin move, find a way to draw contact. I mean, Dwayne Wade, he's a natural scorer. He's always going to know how to do that. James Johnson's actually not a bad post-up player. His sample rate is pretty damn low. He only posts up like 4.6 amount of the time. But he's actually in the 77th percentile in the NBA in post-ups. So if you had a smaller dude on him and he switched, he might actually do something. But I wouldn't bank on that happening too much. Another guy who's not much of a shooter on this team is Justice Winslow. Well, he's actually shooting well. He's shooting 40%, but he only takes 1.5 threes a game. I think there would be times where if you have D Wade and another wing who is not much of a shooter, there could be some problems sometimes. But again, because of Wade's ability to actually dribble the ball and make plays, you can kind of alleviate that stuff a bit. He was a really good playmaker in his stint with the Cavaliers. His assist percentage was at 24, his turnover percentage was at like 15.5, and he was able to really serve as like their backup point guard. I don't think he'll have the ball in his hands as much for these guys because, like I mentioned before, there's just so many ball handlers on this Heat team, so we're not going to see D Wade in as many pick and rolls or in like as many handoff plays. But you could also argue that he'll be in better sets because Spoelstra's a way better coach than Ty Lue is, right? So you could see more opportunities for D Wade to get some easier shots and not just bring the ball up and try to make something out of nothing because Ty Lue's game plan is LeBron do everything, and then when LeBron's not in the game, you got nothing, basically. So anyway, I like the fit, the best way to put it. I think D Wade's lack of an outside jumper will not be much of a problem because this team has a lot of ball handlers, Wade being one of them. And also he's a good cutter, you know. Now, we should also talk about defense. Miami's a very good defensive team. They're 6th in the NBA. They've been a good defensive team for a while now. Some of that being Whiteside's rim protection. Some of that being Bam Adebayo's just a damn good defender off the bench. Spoelstra knows how to coach defense, and then you got guys like James Johnson, Josh Richardson. Dragic is like actually pretty tough. Winslow's good on defense. Olynyk, for being soft around the basket, actually not a bad pick and roll defender. So it's all enough, and I think that'll help D Wade as well, because I mean defensively he's kind of sucked for like 2 years now, let's be real. Especially in transition, my God. The amount of times he's just slow getting up and down the floor, it's rough. Now, hopefully, with a little bit more energy in Miami, he could be a little bit better. But he should be good there. Now, if we can talk about what does this do for them in the context of the Eastern Conference playoffs? Could this be the sort of thing that pushes them over the Indiana Pacers or over the Milwaukee Bucks? Yeah. Because number one, Spoelstra's a better coach than Nate McMillan as well as Joe, is it Prunty? I don't know. I saw a stat earlier that said like Milwaukee's just had like insane shooting since he became the new coach, and a lot of it was like long two-pointers, like stuff that you imagine doesn't really hold up. And I think for Indiana, I mean, Oladipo is just great. That's what it is with them. He's hitting a lot of really difficult shots. Now, Milwaukee did get Jabari Parker back, and that could be the sort of thing that could allow them to secure the, where are they right now? The 5th seed? But you got to assume it's going to take Jabari some time to really get back, you know? Plus, I mean, even if Miami didn't have D Wade, I kind of would have picked Miami to surpass these two teams anyway. I think they're more talented top to bottom. I know Giannis is the best player out of these three teams. I understand that, but I just think with Spoelstra and having all these ball handlers and just having a team first kind of offense, I just think that's the sort of thing that opposing teams just aren't going to be able to consistently figure out, you know? Whereas like with the Bucks, I mean, sometimes Middleton has bad post-ups or he just hijacks the offense. Sometimes you just load up on Giannis, which half the time doesn't work because he's a superhero. But I just think it's a little easier to go at the Bucks, and I think I could see the Bucks just having a stretch where they just lose, I don't know, like 4 of 7 or something. I could see the same thing with Indiana. Whereas Miami, just the collection of talent, that type of stuff. And as far as the Wizards are concerned, because I think they should actually be in here as well in this discussion, they managed to do well without John Wall for a bit. Satoransky, who I, for some reason, didn't talk about at all in that video where I talked about Wall's injury. I mean, he's a lower usage guy. He's a good defender who just kind of makes sure the ball's moving around and all that. But you have to assume the lack of John Wall could really hurt them, and he's going to be out for a bit here. I think Miami's in play for the 4th seed. I do. I think they're just flat out a better team than Milwaukee and Indiana. Now that being said, if they end up facing the Bucks in round 1, I might still pick Milwaukee just because Giannis could go for 45 every night. You know what? I'm putting my foot down. I'm going to have a firm opinion on this one. I think Miami finishes number 4. I think they get number 4, mainly because John Wall is injured. If he was not, then I would pick the Wizards 4. And then between 5, 6, 7, 8... I think Milwaukee could overtake the Wizards, man. I think, Satoransky managed to do it for a minute. I think, given how long John Wall is going to be out here, I think Washington's going to drop. I think their offense is going to have a tough time. So, Heat, Bucks, Wiz, and then whatever the hell else at the bottom, because I don't remember. That's going to do it.